Again, I want to make it clear. I believe that we're in minor wave 5, but if we come back and take out the January low, that means minor wave 4 is not done yet. And it could be that we have a larger A, B, C, or WXY type of a pattern that takes this level out, goes to hit the 20-week moving average, and then resumes the advance. Certainly possible. No requirement that it plays out that way. But again, I think we've started the first two waves of minor wave 5, but I could be wrong about that, so I want to make it clear. Again, minor wave 4 might not be done yet. So if we do take out the January low, that's likely, rather than being here, it's going to come in over here somewhere, and then we're going to resume the advance after that. So again, the question now is minor wave done? Minor wave 4 done? My guess is it is, but if it's not, then we're going to get a bigger sell-off taking out the January low. If we do have minor wave 4 done, I'll be looking for a higher low above the January low and to resume the advance. But this is where I think we are headed, to this upper channel line right here, and I think, again, once we reach that, I think Bitcoin will top out, put a major top in, and begin to price in the recession that we're being told is not going to happen. The Bitcoin cloud here remains bearish. In order for Bitcoin to turn it around, we got to be able to clear the 100,000 area, get back above 100,000, and start going back and trying to challenge these previous highs. Our lower high right here and our peak at 109,000. The resistance zone, again, this peak here and the peak over here, we got to get back above those levels. But again, things are bearish here. Got to turn that around, see momentum turn back to positive. We'll be watching to see if the January low holds up or not. Right now, Bitcoin's just going sideways in the sideways trading range. So again, we're going to see if this consolidation gives us an upward resolution, or do we start taking out the support area? If we do slightly violate it and then turn back up again, it might be that wave 4 is not done yet, minor wave 4, and that we haven't started minor wave 5 yet. My guess is that we're going to get a higher low, but I could be wrong about that. And if we do, then that means the minor wave 4. But momentum remains bearish here. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts and indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel. The link below to take you to a secured site. If you could take a moment to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. It takes a lot of time and effort to do this. I don't have any sponsors. I don't want sponsors. I don't want to send you to these exchanges that want to get you all leveraged up to wipe you out. I just ask that you do what you can to support the channel to help out, but I do need to hear from you in order to make it work. Just let me know you want this information and that you like this information. We had the bullish divergences give us the rally to the 109,000 peak in January, inauguration day, and then we've pulled back now. So again, we're watching. Again, we've been kind of battling here along the 100 period moving average. Momentum signals are negative. Swing trend signals have turned negative. The bulls had better step up to the plate at the support zone if they're going to turn all of this around. Again, we got to be able to get back above the 100,000 area, and we've got to be able to see the MACD and the price oscillator go back into positive territory if we're going to try to resume the advance. Right now, we're testing the 100 period moving average. That's the pink line you see right here on this chart. Again, my signals remain bearish. I told you this pullback was going to happen. I told you I didn't think it was done yet. It's not. So again, we're going to be watching the January low and the tariff sell-off low here. We'll be watching that. Bitcoin is down. Momentum signals are negative. Okay, we had this bullish divergence form over here. I warned you about that bullish divergence happening. It happened. We got the rally with inauguration day, and then we peaked. And we're pulling back. But momentum is negative. That would have to change to turn this around, and then we have to get back into the positive portion of the cloud here, back above the 100,000 area. So that's what needs to happen. Bitcoin is going to turn it around, but momentum is negative. So the risk is that we continue down to test the January low or even try to take it out. Signals, which are correct, remain bearish in the daily time frame. I warned you about this, but I think when the pullback is done, I think we'll resume the advance and go higher. We just had Fed Chair Powell speak. We're going to be getting the inflation data tomorrow. The CPI is expected to come in cool, 2.8 versus 2.9% on a year-over-year basis. With the headline number, the CPI, of course, is supposed to come in cooler as well, 3.1 opposed to 3.2. So again, we'll be watching to see if that could possibly help create a Bitcoin bottom. We are going to get more tariffs out of the White House later this week. Got the tariffs on aluminum and steel on Monday after the stock market had closed. Chair Powell's expected to testify a second day of testimony. And on Thursday, tomorrow we'll get a second day of testimony after we get the CPI data. And then on Thursday, after Powell testifies, we'll get the producer price index, which is wholesale inflation. Again, momentum continues to be bearish. I told you that, again, Bitcoin was going to bottom in January at that trend line I talked about. We hit it right on the nose. We bounced. We rallied up. I predicted a rally. I told you we had a topping tail on Inauguration Day, that we were going to get a pullback, and we're seeing that pullback happen now. Could be coming to a conclusion, but momentum continues to be bearish. Continue to have a bearish reversal of conditions with the tariff sell-off. Once it's done, I think Bitcoin will resume the advance and go higher. For right now, momentum continues to be bearish on Bitcoin. On all my oscillators, momentum is bearish. In order for it to resume the advance, we've got to get a bullish reversal of conditions. We've got to get back above the 10 period. We keep getting rejection off the 10 period moving average. I've told you I've been watching the IBIT ETF very closely. And the IBIT ETF, again, we had the tariff sell off. We came back and we filled the gap there. And then we gapped back down and we sold off. And now we've rebounded back up. But we're getting rejection after the rally again over here, which was on January 13th. I told you going into that rally or going into that bottom, that Bitcoin was about the bottom trend line of support. And it did, went back up. And again, the DeepSeek sell-off formed a bear flag, just like the S&P, broke down, had the tariff sell-off, rebounded back up, filled the gap, and we've had this volatility here. So again, I think this gap is going to get filled right here at 53.22. I think we're going to fill that gap and take out this low. We're working on doing that right now. And I think you're going to form the reference point of a bullish divergence if we hit this level right here, fill the gap, maybe overthrow this level a little bit, get something like that, or go deeper to go back and test a January low. But I think we're going to establish a higher low with the Bitcoin ETF. I think we're in wave 2. If we go and take out the January low on Bitcoin itself, we're not in minor wave 5. We're still in minor wave 4 and just getting a larger corrective move, and that would be back to the 20-week moving average. Bitcoin get a bearish death cross with the 50 and the 200 on the 4-hour chart. We now have it here with the Bitcoin ETF, the 60-minute chart for IBIT. Here it is without any annotations. And I think, again, we could see a divergence develop here on the MACD that could create a bottom that could, again, fill the gap there at 53.22 and come back and test this low, probably, again, taking out this level to form a larger divergence. And I think we can bottom somewhere in here, probably in the high 51 area or on into the 52 level if we fill the gap at 53.22. Again, we had this little divergence right here, right there, but it was higher. It was higher than this level. So if we form a lower low, we can get this larger divergence with this low and again with this level here. So you would have a larger divergence developing that would likely set up a higher low here above the January 13th low. Bitcoin's down 2.65% right now. Bitcoin just dropped back below 95,000. It's now in the high 94,000 area. We're below the 100,000 area. Be able to get back above that to turn this around. We've had the death cross already here in the 4-hour time frame. We tried to rally back up. We got rejection at the 50. We're pushing down. Now we're coming back again to test this low right here. This is the low from the tariff sell-off. Again, the DeepSeek sell-off, the tariff sell-off. This is at the inauguration peak right here. Again, I talked about the bullish divergence here surrounding the January bottom. Hit the level I was predicting right on the nose, nailed the top over here at the trend line, nailed the bottom over here at the trend line. Again, it pays to pay attention to these trend lines of support and resistance because they nailed the turns here, and that's why I showed you those trend lines. Again, here's the support zone. Again, the tariff sell-off lows and the January low. Now, again, got another day of testimony with Powell. We've got the CPI inflation data, the PPI inflation data for the next 2 days. The Trump administration is supposed to announce more tariffs, possibly on Europe now. The EU is warning not to do that. Interesting, they have tariffs, higher tariffs on the United States than the United States has on them. You know, just on automobiles, got a 10% tariff in Euroland over there. States, it's about 2.5%. So I understand the imbalance. I'm not a fan of tariffs and either thing. They wanted the tariffs to go away. Why don't they just remove the tariffs? If they don't want tariffs slapped on them, why don't they just simply remove the tariffs that are in place on the United States on imports from the United States right now? Interesting. But I'm not a fan. Tariffs act as a consumption tax. I'm not a fan of tariffs in either way. But I've talked about this bullish divergence developing on Bitcoin, again, with the support zone or a higher low. Now, again, we've had bottoming tails here. So, again, the RSI is not looking at that. We can come down here and still hold above this level and still get a bullish divergence developing because be a higher low because the RSI is looking at the close. It's not looking at these bottoming tails. That in mind, but I've been warning you about a divergence developing here for quite a while, or maybe we take this level out and move right into the support zone here and then bottom out and to get something like that. That's certainly possible as well. Get another bottoming tail here in the coming days ahead, but I do think Bitcoin will establish a bottom. Now, if I'm wrong about the January low being a bottom, then wave 4 never finished, and we would get something like this where it would be a leg down here, a leg up here, and then this larger leg down that would take out this level, and likely that would move back to the 20-week moving average in the weekly time frame. It is rolling over here in the 4-hour time frame, right at that center line, just rolling over. So again, I think you're going to see a divergence develop. So the question is, do we take out this low or hold above it, and do we take out this low or hold above it? And that's really the support zone that I'm looking at right here. So I think that, again, we are in wave 2. Again, if we take out that low, then I think that 20-week moving average will be tested. We'll take out the 100 period and then probably get back above it. Be watching for a divergence to develop surrounding this low right here. And again, the closing level, or again, possibly moving right slightly below the bottoming tails right there for these divergences. Again, divergences have been calling the turns in the 4-hour time frame. The divergence here at when we slammed up into the major trend line of resistance in the weekly time frame. When we hit the trend line of support here in the daily, the bullish divergence marked it. When we finished the rally for inauguration day, and we got that reversal on inauguration day, it was marked with the divergence. And that's why I told you we were going to get this pullback. We're taking out the 100 period moving average again. I have a trend line right here from this low in September, the higher low that's set up here, and connecting that with this low, including the shadow, and then that's tagging this area which we hit with the sell-off, with the tariffs, again, just over a week ago. And again, could this area come into play? We'll see what happens. Again, the 100 period, if we take it out and stay below it, that's bearish. You drop below it here as we're doing and get back above it, that's bullish. Again, Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average. So watching this closely, we do have the horizontal support coming in at that area as well. So again, looking at this area carefully, this is our log scaling trend line. We broke the trend line from these lows right here with our log scaling. That's a trend line that we bounced off of with the linear scaling that I was predicting. Our triple bearish divergence played out very nicely at the inauguration, at the December peak, and then we went back and tested that level and got that topping tail on inauguration day, and that marked this little possible double top. I told you I think it's a fake pattern. I don't think it's a double top. I think the Head and Shoulders was a fake pattern, which is now proven to be correct because we went higher. I think we're consolidating, and then I think we're going to see the advance resume. MACD is in negative territory. It was a bullish divergence that I told you that was likely going to form before it did form on the MACD and the price oscillator at the January low. So again, now we're watching, do we get a higher low above that January low? We're in negative territory with the MACD. So again, there's risk of a bigger decline, especially with more tariffs on the horizon. We had that big drop with the tariffs, but then the rebound, we dropped 6%, and then the dip was bought and formed the bottoming tail. Do we see something similar to that here? We'll be watching. But again, just another trend line I'm watching here with our log scaling. With our linear scaling, you got a possible, if we get a higher low here, you got a possible channel in play right here. Don't know that we do that. Hang on, my horizontal support line moved on me here. Sometimes the trend lines move on this program. It moved my bull flag to, let me fix that here. Okay, well, anyways, we have this horizontal support right here. We've been bouncing off of it, bounced off of it with the tariff sell-off low. We've got potentially another back test of this broken trend line, here, of the breakout of the trend line, I should say, with our bull flag. So again, and we're testing the 100 period. So again, a confluence of support in this area, or even if we violate it with the bottoming tail, again, could we test this low? You take out that level, then you're at risk of getting a bigger sell-off. And the risk is that there's not much in the way of support, here from our breakout point, not much in the way of support. We're approaching a level with the trend indicator where we should see a bottom or get a bigger dump. If Bitcoin bottoms around the 100 period moving average, then it can recover. But if we see it here as it's dropping right now below the 100 period and it remains below it and takes out the cloud as it's doing, it's testing the cloud and remaining below the cloud, and then the trend indicator goes negative and stays there, then Bitcoin could get a bigger dump. The risk is that we go back to the 2023 trend line right here, currently near 75 or 80,000 area, where whenever we would come into contact with it. The pullback right here could end around our 100 period and find support above the January low. But again, we would need to see the buyers come back in around the 100 period moving average, and even if the trend indicator goes negative, it would need to quickly turn back to bullish. Like over here, we pulled back to the 100 period moving average, took it out, went briefly negative, but then turned back to bullish. Similar over here, we were going sideways. So again, if the price of Bitcoin drops below the 100 period as it's doing now and stays below it, that's going to be bearish. If we drop below it and get back above the 100 period, that's going to be bullish. And then I'll be watching the trend indicator. I don't always get a chance to share this with you. I have a lot of different charts. Watch it. And again, it's been in the positive region. The negative divergence gave us the December high, went slightly higher, and it formed a larger divergence there with the January peak. So again, that's given us a sell-off back to the 100 period moving average. At a point where we're either going to try to bottom out around here or get a bigger dump. And the risk is if we take out support and get a bigger dump, the risk is that we go down to this 2023 trend line. My guess is that's not going to be the case, but I always try to show you the different scenarios that could happen and the different support and resistance levels. Again, in the weekly time frame, I think once this pullback is done, I think we still go up to this upper channel line. That's where I think we're headed. And I think Bitcoin's going to top up at this upper channel line. Now, again, I believe that we're in minor wave 5. If I'm wrong about that, then minor wave 4 never finished, and we're still getting a larger corrective move if we do take out the January low. We got the accumulation signal at the January low. We got another accumulation at last week's low with the tariff sell-off. So again, going to be looking to see, do we try to bottom out here with a higher low above the January low, even a higher low above the tariff sell-off low. We'll be watching to see how it unfolds, but I am looking for diversions on those 4-hour charts. Remember, I have to move beyond the tariff low because those were bottoming tails, so I'm looking for a bottom surrounding that area. Weekly signals are still bullish. There's a trend. Some momentum signals are trying to flip. We're going to be watching to see if we see a change in the trending signals and they remain bullish, then the bulls will remain in control. But right here, coming back for a test, and things are still bullish right here in the weekly time frame. Things still bullish here, and in the land of critical mass, Bitcoin weekly chart still bullish. So we're coming back to some of these support levels. We'll see if we try to carve out a bottom. Again, as I warned, again, we were hitting the trend line from the 2021 low. We turned off of that at the December peak, and then we went up and we went slightly higher to 109,000. December peak was 108,000. We hit 109,000. We turned off of it, and here we are. Now, we've taken up a 10 period. Our 20 is directly below. Again, we could test the 20 period, still get a higher low, or maybe we get a slightly lower low if the wave 4 is not done yet. But I do think that once we finish this pullback, we're going up into this channel line, the upper channel line right here. So that's where I think we're headed. I think Bitcoin's going to top. And when Bitcoin tops, just like back at the 2021 peak, nobody's going to believe it's a top. And everybody, when we get up to this area, wherever we come into contact, whether it's 125,000 or whether that's a little bit higher into the 130,000 range or whatever, whenever we come into contact, that's my target. When we hit it, nobody's going to believe it's a top. And again, Bitcoin will eventually top and begin to price in a recession that is coming. Now, Powell was complimented today by Senator Kennedy in the hearings, telling us how he has saved us from the recession with a soft landing. And again, it's not going to happen. If you watch my Ron Walker channel, you know recession indicators. Just talked about the SOM rule over the weekend. There's several recession signals that are flashing right now. Eventually, Bitcoin will begin to price that in. Guesses we're going to go higher once this is done. And again, I think we will see a top. Now, Bitcoin's down over 2%, 2.35% at the moment. It was down a little bit more. Again, watching this 100 period moving average, we rallied up here to the 10 period and we got rejection just below our 50 period moving average. The 10 is now crossing back below the 50 period moving average. So again, the risk is that we get a bigger dump. So far we've seen from the high over here, we've seen a 16.40% dump. But you got major support in here. We'll be watching that. On different trend lines right here. This trend line is connecting this low with the prior low. Looking at different trend lines we'll be watching, but I'm also looking at the 78.6 Fibonacci. We have moved beyond that with this low right here. So I'm looking in this area. Do we try to find a bottom or end up getting a bigger dump? Pullback I predicted has happened. I told you the January bottom. I told you that where we were going to bottom, which was this trend line. If we include the shadows here, this low here, this low here, and we hit it right on the nose. Okay, we're now breaking that trend line. So I've connected the low here with the tariff sell-off low, as you saw a moment ago. It's another area of interest, but we take out the January low, then on the linear scaling here, we have this trend line, and here, excluding the shadow, just a little bit lower there. So just another area I'm looking at, just looking at the different trend lines, including the shadows and excluding the shadows. This was a trend line I called the January bottom with. I told you we were headed for it. And the trend line that I showed you on the weekly chart, that's the trend line I told you we were going to top out at and pull back. And both of those trend lines, they acted as support and resistance. So again, looking at this carefully, I think we're probably going to bottom out here somewhere. My guess is it's going to be higher than the January low, but I could be wrong about that, and that's why I'm telling you the alternative scenario for may not be done yet. My guess is that it is. I think the positive seasonality will begin to take over. We're having the volatility here. We had some in January. We have it in February. Our previous, and again, this doesn't always work out the same way, but again, we've had some volatility in 2024, early 2024 in January, and then we had the rally up. In 2023, we had sharp rally in January, and then we had the volatility in February, and then went higher in March. So again, I think you could see something like that could take us to the upper channel line in the weekly time frame. But again, I think this volatility is going to be followed by a surge. It's going to complete a top. Show you other times in history where it hasn't played out the same. I'm just showing you in recent history, this is the way it's played out during the uptrend. We'll see if it plays out that way again from January to March in the first quarter here. Momentum in the short-term swing trend remained bearish here. In order to turn that around, you got to get back above the ribbon. It has to turn green. Again, the upper boundary of the cloud, we flipped red. We tried to get above it, and it failed, and we turned off of 109,000. So again, do we try to bottom out here with the higher low? Momentum remains bearish. Again, predicted the bottom here and the bottom in January here off of this support level. We broke out over here. We went up here. We formed negative divergences here, and we came back here to the VWAP support and the horizontal support there in blue. Here we are. We bounced off of it again here at the tariff sell-off low, dropping 6%. We bottomed there. Do we bottom here? If we go and break this level out, you do have support right here and right here just directly below from the lows back over here and here from the low at 49,000 and 52,000. But I'm watching to see, do we get a higher low above the January low there? In order for the advance to resume, you got to be able to bottom out and then be able to clear this resistance area and this entire resistance zone right here from our 109,000 peak and the lower high that did form. VWAP support volume weighted average price with the horizontal support levels. Again, I warned you about the top. The momentum was warning we were going to have a shift with the topping tail with the inauguration day right there, and eventually we saw that happen. And again, momentum line turned bearish here. It's been bearish. We've been dropping, and now again, seeing the balance of power go negative. So again, I'll be watching the January 13th low, and I'll be watching the low here from the tariff sell-off. We're supposed to get more tariffs later this week. We now had on Monday the new tariffs on aluminum and steel. Momentum signals have turned bearish, and short-term swing trade signals have turned bearish. The cloud, this line right here turning red, representing the swing move. So again, we're seeing some bearish things happen. Our signals remain bearish. Momentum here is still in negative territory. We had momentum turn negative after we got these topping signals. We saw it go negative. And again, the impulse line remains negative here. That's this red line right here. And this line represents the swing move, or I should say the short-term trend, and it's now turning red. We have the ribbon turning bearish. The background is turning bearish, again, with the sell signal here. So again, things remain bearish. Now, could we bottom the support zone? I think that you got a shot that could be the case. We'll be watching to see what happens with Powell's second day of testimony. We'll be watching the CPI data and the markets respond to that and possibly more tariffs later in the week. The White House is saying they're going to announce more tariffs. It's likely going to be directed at Europe.